So I'm sitting there listening intently to my client. I'm a young therapist at the beginning of my career, and I'm trying really hard to be a good therapist, And I'm loving being a therapist. I love helping people, and I love seeing results. And I also love the way each session is like a puzzle or like a maze or, I don't know, a fascinating walk in the woods with someone down a trail, a nice, pleasant trail, fraught with all sorts of, twists and turns, and with discovery, and with love, and with pain, but ultimately with growth. How about that for a metaphor? So I'm listening to my client, and I feel like I'm doing really well. I'm being empathic, I'm attentive, she's telling me about her emotional experience. Everything is going according to plan. And then she says, "And that's why you're a terrible therapist." And then she really lays into me. She's super angry at me. She's not happy with me. And she knows exactly what to say to hurt my feelings. She's insulting me. She's telling me that I'm too young, I'm too this, I'm too that. I'm a terrible listener. I haven't listened to her at all. Everything I've done up until that point has been wrong. And my breath is taken away, and I start to panic. And I'm thinking, what? I'm a terrible therapist? Wait, I thought I was doing a good job. She accuses me of not knowing what I'm doing, and of not really listening to her, and of being a man who could never understand her. I'm devastated, and I'm terrified, and I suspect she's right. I'm a terrible therapist. She's right about that. In this episode, I will provide a self-analysis of my countertransference during that moment. This is a common psychodynamic practice to self-analyze. I will discuss what happened, my emotional reaction, what I did in the moment, my analysis of myself, my self-analysis, my analysis of my client, my plan for future sessions, and the eventual outcome. Hello and welcome. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your loyal host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I am chair of the Couple and Family Therapy program at Antioch University, Seattle, and I'm also a practicing psychotherapist. This episode is just for patrons of the podcast. So if you're listening to this and you're not a patron of the podcast, this episode will end early. If you want to hear the full episode, you have to become a patron of the podcast at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/psychology in Seattle, I think. So just go to patreon.com, search for Psychology in Seattle, and become a patron of the podcast by pledging a certain amount of funds per month. Patrons of the podcast get access to exclusive episodes like this one, along with other various benefits and other sorts of swag. So again, if you haven't already, go to patreon.com and become a patron of our humble little podcast to get access to this episode on psychodynamic self-analysis of a countertransferential moment. And patrons, you have access to this full episode on the Patreon page. Just go to the tab labeled Creator Posts. That's on their Patreon page. Go to the tab labeled Creator Posts. There you will find patron-only content posted like this episode. And please let me know if this is a convenient way for me to get exclusive content to you. I'm still trying to figure out how to do all this.